Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com.au to find out more. Coming up, 2 more Victorian councillors to be suspended. Mayors speak out, local distress over international conflict and senseless violence on our streets. A council advised to plan the closure of a local aerodrome. A landmark ruling on human rights goes against Moreton Bay Council. A string of arson attacks rocks a local community. The 4-day week might not be dead and buried in Tasmania. Plus, a council CEO sacked and a warning issued over online abuse. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy. That's all ahead and much, much more on Australia's #1 local government podcast. It's the Local Government News Roundup for Monday the 9th of March 2026, brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government. Plus, we receive support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. Thanks for your company, wherever you're listening across Australia or around the world. Now let's look at those latest arbiter reports to drop, leading to 2 new councillor suspensions this week. A Knox City councillor will be suspended for 1 month following an investigation into misconduct. Independent arbiter Joanne Mazzio issued the ruling against Councillor Peter Lockwood following complaints from several of his colleagues. The arbitration focused on a string of incidents last July where Councillor Lockwood was found to have used social media to disparage fellow councillors and, quote, intentionally misrepresent internal communications. In her statement of reasons, the arbiter noted that Councillor Lockwood showed a pattern of behaviour that diminished public trust, including calling colleagues Grinches and heartless during heated debates over Christmas decorations. His suspension is set to take effect this week following the formal tabling of the report at Tuesday's council meeting. And at Marybeck Council, an independent arbiter has ordered the suspension of Deputy Mayor Councillor Jay Iwasaki for 1 month. That follows a series of emails in which Councillor Iwasaki used the word corruption in relation to fellow Councillor Oscar Yildiz and suggested a conflict of interest in a car park resurfacing project at a reserve in East Coburg. Arbiter Simon Heath ruled that the language was unnecessary, inappropriate, inflammatory and damaging, and that Councillor Iwasaki failed to show proper council protocols for raising conflict of interest concerns. Mr Heath noted that both parties had attempted to raise matters outside the issues in the application. He described their relationship as fractious and encouraged them to avoid personal attacks. The arbiter report will be tabled at the council meeting this week, with the suspension to take effect after that. Councillor Yildiz, who was found to have correctly disclosed his interests, is also owed a formal written apology under the ruling. Councillor Iwasaki is the 3rd Marybeck councillor to be suspended in the past year. The Mayor of Whittlesea City Council, Councillor Laurie Cox, released a statement on the weekend after the tragic and senseless death of a young security officer at Mernda train station on Friday. Councillor Cox said the incident is deeply distressing for all involved and offered condolences to the family of the person who died. He said he's requested a briefing from Victoria Police on anything of relevance at the local government level, but does not intend to interfere with the role of police. In Melbourne's Outer East, Manningham Council says conflict in Iran and across the Middle East is being felt locally, with many residents worried for family and friends overseas. Mayor Jim Grievous says the city is home to a large Iranian community and the council wants people to know support is available. He said the council is working with local agencies to strengthen community connection and it is pointing residents to counselling and wellbeing services. Councillor Grievous has urged people to look after each other and to keep the focus on peace and belonging here at home. Glen Eira City Council is taking new steps to address rising community tensions and a reported increase in local anti-Semitism. The local government area is home to Victoria's largest Jewish community, making up more than 17% of its population. To address growing concerns over safety and social division, the council has announced a two-pronged approach, a dedicated anti-Semitism strategy and a new social cohesion grant program. The strategy is a first-of-its-kind 2-year framework designed to improve education, reporting and safety measures. Glen Eira Mayor Simone Zamoud said the move acknowledges the unique role that local government plays in times of global uncertainty. She said we're in a unique position to respond with care, clarity and compassion. Out to the west now, and the Star Weekly reports that Brimbank Council is urging the Victorian government to keep Vic Health independent, even as ministers move to fold the agency into the Department of Health. Councillors say Vic Health funding helps councils and local groups run prevention programs, from tackling inactivity and social isolation to reducing alcohol and tobacco harm. They warn that putting Vic Health inside a department focused on hospitals could weaken long-term partnerships and blunt its ability to challenge powerful corporate interests. As the boom in Melbourne's west continues, a coalition of councils says the next Victorian election should come with a big infrastructure deal. Lead West, representing 5 Western councils, has launched a list of priority projects and is asking all parties to commit ahead of the 2026 state poll. The group says the region could reach 1.6 million people by 2046, with hundreds of thousands of new homes planned, but warns services and transport are not keeping pace. Its agenda ranges from homelessness and mental health funding to the Western Rail Plan, airport rail, bus upgrades and urban greening. And to the north, where Gannawarra Shire Council says the local community should see lasting benefits, not just disruption, from the planned VNI West power line. Councillors have met with Climate Minister Lily D'Ambrosio and VicGrid, raising concerns about the project, a 500 kilovolt transmission link to New South Wales. The council opposes any move to force access to private farmland and says the project is short on social licence. Its pitch to government is simple. If Gannawarra hosts the expanded grid, residents and local business should get cheaper power, with access to locally generated electricity at generator prices. Also making news this week, Wyndham City Council will hold a special council meeting on Wednesday to elect a new mayor to serve out the rest of the current mayoral term. The office of mayor was vacated when Councillor Josh Gilligan received a 1-month suspension as the result of a councillor conduct arbitration. Ballot packs are in the mail for the Lockwood Ward by-election in the city of Greater Bendigo. That position became vacant in November with the resignation of former councillor John McElrath. Voting closes 27th of March. Murrindindi Shire has welcomed an extension of time for submissions until April 19th for a parliamentary inquiry into this summer's bushfires. It says the extra time will help locals share what worked and what didn't, and what needs to change before next bushfire season. And Campaspe Shire Council has successfully run a full-scale drill to install its Aquafence flood barrier in Rochester, wrapping the town hall, community house, service centre and library. A 10-person crew deployed and packed it down over 2 days with only minor disruption to traffic and parking. This is the Local Government News Roundup for Monday the 9th of March. We'll move on to the New South Wales report in just a moment. But first a word from the VLGA, which is hosting a special International Women's Day event on Friday the 13th of March from 12 p.m. at the Lyceum Club in Melbourne. Give to Gain, a path to gender equality, is an opportunity to share and celebrate achievements in promoting gender equality and hear insights as to how the local government sector can further support women's participation in local government and decision-making roles. Commissioner for Gender Equality in the Public Sector, Dr Nikki Vincent, will be joined by the 2025 Mary Rogers Awards winners as they discuss their experiences and insights and look to provide ideas on how the sector can encourage and inspire women to play an active leadership role within their communities. VLGA members receive a 50% discount to attend this event, which includes lunch. An additional multiple registration discount also applies to registrations of 3 or more. You can book via the VLGA website. A bit of news to round up from the regions in our New South Wales report today. Federation Council in southern New South Wales is being urged to plan the closure of the Corowa aerodrome as a new report warns the facility is financially unsustainable. Council officers say the aerodrome currently runs at a deficit of about $400,000 a year, with most costs subsidised by local ratepayers. The report estimates up to $3.5 million in capital upgrades may be needed in the next few years to keep the facility compliant and safe. Councillors will consider options ranging from reducing operations to a single runway through to closing the aerodrome entirely by 2029. While the airfield supports recreational aviation and occasional medical flights, the report says the benefits are limited compared with the ongoing cost to the community. Councillors will consider the issue as an agenda item at its council meeting this week. Another southern New South Wales council has reopened an old argument, should it be split up again. Snowy Monaro Regional Council asked residents in a satisfaction survey if they supported demerging, and 59% said yes, but that was short of the council's own two-thirds benchmark, which was meant to trigger a formal move. About Regional is reporting that several councillors believe the result still matters, pointing to another group of residents who were unsure and arguing it's enough to justify a report on the legal steps and the cost of a poll. Others warn the numbers are not decisive and say a demerger could mean higher rates and years of uncertainty. Ultimately, a call for a report on costs and legal steps of a demerger was narrowly voted down at the council's latest meeting. Leeton Shire Council says it's preparing a clearer rule book for a hard question: when is it time to sell an asset or stop running a service? After advice from its Financial Sustainability Advisory Committee, councillors have agreed to develop a principles-based framework to test whether assets still match the council's core business and long-term sustainability. The council says any option would need evidence and community consultation before decisions are made. Mayor George Weston says the assessment will not be purely financial and will weigh community benefit, economic impact and strategic fit alongside costs. Port Stephens Council is drawing a line on offshore wind, saying it does not support a project off the Hunter Coast, at least not yet. Councillors have voted to write to Federal Energy Minister Chris Bowen and local MP Meryl Swanson, calling for clearer detail on proposed research and demonstration licences, including the scale, timing and infrastructure needed. The council says it wants transparent consultation and strong impact assessments before any activity proceeds. In Byron Shire, the council says it wants to move faster on social and affordable housing, starting with a formal agreement with Homes New South Wales. Councillors are proposing an MOU, a shared non-binding commitment to swap information and map out delivery models, funding and timelines. The Mayor, Sarah NJ, says the framework could be applied to sites like the former Mullumbimby Hospital and would set shared principles that match community expectations. Regional New South Wales mayors say a new state advisory panel could shape how councils stay financially afloat before reforms are locked in. A local government expert advisory panel has been appointed for a 3-year term to give practical advice on improving councils' long-term sustainability. The Country Mayors Association says it's pleased that several rural and regional leaders have been appointed, alongside senior local government officials and union representation. A 24-hour endurance challenge at Clovelly Beach has turned into real support for people in crisis. Sutherland Shire Mayor Jack Boyd and 14 council lifeguards joined a swim-run relay with crews from Waverley and Randwick, pushing through rough weather to raise $34,000 for Lifeline Sydney and Sutherland. The money will help staff local call centres around the clock, so trained counsellors can keep answering calls day and night. And this International Women's Day, North Sydney Council is asking locals to help rewrite a more complete history. It's launched the Notable Women of North Sydney project, inviting residents to share stories of women past or present, with a connection to the area. The aim is to spotlight achievements that might have been overlooked in everything from the arts and business to health, sport and social justice. The council plans to use the submissions for community education alongside public displays, recognising the first 12 women featured this year. Back to Sutherland Shire, which says it's installed 5 shark bite kits on the Kurnell Peninsula, aiming to give bystanders simple tools to control severe bleeding while help is on the way. And Mayor Jack Boyd says more kits are on order. Muswellbrook Shire Council is backing plans to repurpose the former Liddell Power Station after the New South Wales Government moved the AGL Hunter Energy Hub into its new Investment Delivery Authority. And riding an e-bike could soon come with homework in inner Sydney. The Daily Telegraph reported that the City of Sydney wants to trial the state's first mandatory education course for bike and e-bike riders. It's arguing a short practical program could lift safety and confidence as more people commute on 2 wheels. Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, have a chat to James at Rath Engineering Development or head to rathed.com.au to find out more. To Queensland now, and the state's Supreme Court has ruled that the city of Moreton Bay breached human rights when it cleared a homeless encampment from a local park. 11 residents challenged eviction notices at a site near Callangur, saying their property was removed unlawfully. The Guardian reported that Justice Paul Smith found the council did not properly apply the state's Human Rights Act and that consent to remove belongings was not given in some cases, despite police attending the clearances. Advocates say the ruling sends a clear message to councils across Queensland that people's dignity must be considered, even when enforcing local laws. In a statement released after the decision, the City of Moreton Bay maintained that its officers acted in the interests of public health and safety. It emphasised that local governments are neither responsible nor funded for the provision of social housing or shelters, asserting that this remains the constitutional responsibility of state and federal governments, and it expressed disappointment that significant public resources were consumed by the legal matter, noting that no one will achieve a housing solution based on the outcome of this case. A run of suspected arson attacks has rocked Yeppoon's CBD, with Livingstone Shire Council and the Queensland Government calling it deliberate and senseless. The library and community centre precinct has been cordoned off as police forensic teams investigate, and power was shut down as a safety step. The council says the library has damage to external air conditioning units and some vandalism, and early checks suggest the building itself is structurally sound. Mayor Adam Bellott says the priority is safety and restoring services as soon as it is cleared to reopen. A Queensland community is in mourning after Noosa Council confirmed the death of 18-year-old Joe Tolano, a lifeguard at its Noosa Aquatic Centre. The council said Mr Tolano went missing at Badina Beach on Wednesday and has since been recovered. Chief Executive Larry Sengstock said Joe was a well-loved part of the Aquatic Centre team and had worked there for 3 years. The council says counselling and wellbeing support is being offered to staff as the community comes to terms with the tragic loss. On Queensland's Fraser Coast, Maryborough's CBD is in the spotlight after the state government announced stronger police powers aimed at repeat antisocial behaviour. Fraser Coast Regional Council says local businesses and residents have raised ongoing concerns and it wants people to feel confident coming into the city centre to shop, work and spend time. Councillors say extra powers could give police more options to respond quickly to serious or persistent offenders, but they're also stressing that community safety is a complex issue. In the Wide Bay Burnett area, 4 councils are teaming up to stop a growing danger in the waste stream lithium-ion battery fires. Fraser Coast, Bundaberg, Gympie and North Burnett councils are urging residents to drop off battery-powered devices for free during March and April, instead of putting them in household bins. And in the far north, Cookshire Council says a fresh wave of vandalism in Cooktown is likely to cost the community about $15,000, with damage across toilets, parks, the waterfront barbecue area and the dog park. Mayor Robin Holmes says repairs can mean higher maintenance bills or public facilities closing while they're made safe, and that's pulling staff and money away from other local priorities. Down to Tasmania now, and a push for a 4-day week is landing at another council there, according to the Mercury. The Australian Services Union says it's secured a trial of a 30-hour week at the West Coast Council for 5 days' pay, but the council says it's only agreed to a review of whether a trial should go ahead. An extract of the bargaining deal says the review must look at staff well-being and work-life balance while keeping the change cost-neutral and maintaining productivity. Unions argue shorter hours are a way to attract and keep workers, especially in local government. It follows a controversial plan to introduce a 4-day work week at Launceston City Council, which was abandoned recently. In the Derwent Valley, the local council is tightening its belt, cutting about $600,000 from this year's budget after years of operating in deficit. Tasmanian Country reported that the council's cash pressures have been building, affecting future projects and routine bills. Cuts include more than $80,000 from roads, bridges and footpaths and $30,000 from parks, buildings and reserves. Several upgrades have been pushed back. The council says the aim is to rebuild its cash balance for the rest of the financial year. In South Australia, Ceduna Council says a new Essential Services Commission assessment should come with context and a warning about shrinking federal support. The council says financial assistance grants have not kept pace with inflation, leaving Ceduna about $770,000 a year worse off than if funding had been indexed over 15 years. The report flagged operating deficits in major services and the need to strengthen asset and financial planning. The council says it's already updated its long-term financial plan and asset management plan, and points to reforms that cut a landfill deficit of nearly $500,000 a year. It also argues services like the Ceduna Airport and the Water West scheme matter beyond the balance sheet. Port Lincoln is getting a boost to its waterfront with more than $438,000 in South Australian government funding tied to the state's algal bloom recovery plan. The City of Port Lincoln will use the money to renew a busy boardwalk on Tasman Terrace, and a second project will replace ageing foreshore tables and benches. Work is due to start in September and finish by the end of the year. In WA, the Shire of Kuro says it's tightening the rules of engagement online after a spike in abusive comments on posts shared to local community pages. In a new social media statement, the council says it welcomes open discussion, but will not tolerate threats, harassment, discrimination or defamatory material. The Shire says comments on community pages have repeatedly breached its standards, so it's stopped posting there for now. In the state's wheat belt, the Shire of Narrogin has been picked for a state pilot on community benefits from large renewable energy projects. The state government has released new guidelines setting benchmark contributions from developers, including $1,000 per megawatt for wind farms, $750 for solar and $125 for battery storage. Narrogin and 3 other shires will help test how community benefit plans work, so regional towns see ongoing returns alongside the big energy infrastructure. Augusta's Turner Street Jetty is a step closer to reopening after the Shire of Augusta Margaret River Council voted to take the restoration project to market. The timber jetty was closed in March last year on safety advice from an independent marine engineer who found serious structural deterioration. A community working group helped shape a new concept, and a Shire survey drew more than 500 responses, with about 92% backing a like-for-like replacement. And in the Northern Territory town of Katherine, the local council has sacked its chief executive, Ingrid Stonhill. Council says it's ended the employment of the CEO, but it's not giving a reason, citing confidentiality, according to the NT News. Stonehill started in early 2022 and has been on leave, according to the council website. Casey Anderson is acting in the CEO position and has been appointed as interim chief executive while a replacement is found. Time to head overseas. Let's go to the UK. Two former Labor local government figures in East London are switching sides as Reform UK tries to build momentum ahead of May's local elections. The former Mayor of Newham, Sir Robin Wales, has joined the party and will take on a role as Reform's London Director for Local Government. BBC News also reports that ex-councillor Clive Furness has been chosen as the Reform candidate for Mayor of Newham. At a press conference with Nigel Farage, both men criticised Labor's record in London and said the party no longer speaks for working-class communities. Labor says Reform is scraping the barrel and notes that Wales was removed by local members in 2018. In Lincolnshire, the county council has voted to drop its pledge to become carbon neutral by 2050 after the new Reform UK administration called the target completely unachievable. Leaders say the cost would fall on council taxpayers and argue climate goals are being set without the funding to deliver them. The decision follows a heated meeting disrupted by climate protesters. Council officials say work to cut emissions will continue, but without the 2050 deadline. And in Scotland, council tax is rising well above inflation as local authorities try to close deep budget holes. In West Dunbartonshire, the council leader says a £9.2 million deficit could push the authority toward bankruptcy in the next term of government, with a 7.8% tax rise now locked in. BBC News reported that other councils are lifting rates by around 8 to almost 10%. But in Scotland, councils are legally required to set balanced budgets, so the real risk is what happens when the numbers no longer add up. More cuts, higher fees, and tougher choices imposed from the outside. In the US, city mayors say federal immigration enforcement needs a reset, and they want it to start with basics that build trust. The US Conference of Mayors has adopted 2 emergency resolutions, urging the Department of Homeland Security to set clearer standards for ICE operations, including visible identification, body cameras, limits on stops based on language or race, and a return to protections for so-called sensitive locations like schools and hospitals. A second resolution calls for a bipartisan push to modernise the immigration system, including visa and employment checks and a stronger refugee and asylum framework. Nashville's Metro Council is pushing back against Elon Musk's proposed Music City Loop, an underground tunnel network that would carry passengers in dedicated Tesla vehicles. Councillors have passed a resolution flagging concerns about safety, transparency and the lack of local input, saying they were largely blindsided when the state and the Boring Company announced the plan. The initial tunnel would link the airport to downtown, with a wider network promised later, and the first section due to open early next year. In Canada, a group of small city mayors in Ontario's Niagara region are pushing back on talk of amalgamation with a different idea. CBC News reported that 8 mayors have written to Premier Doug Ford, urging the province to consider moving core regional services into locally run boards and commissions. It comes as the regional council has launched a governance review after taxes rose sharply and the chair floated merging the region's 12 municipalities. And a leadership shake-up in New Zealand's Taranaki region could be a sign of bigger change. The chief executive of Taranaki Regional Council, Steve Ruru, has been appointed interim head of New Plymouth District Council while keeping his current job. New Plymouth's mayor says the dual role points to councils moving closer as national reforms push local government to simplify and collaborate. Other leaders welcome the move as a chance to test shared service models, though mayors in South Taranaki and Stratford told RNZ that they've not been part of any formal talks yet. And that's your Monday edition of the Local Government News Roundup, episode number 560, recorded Monday the 9th of March 2026. If it's a long weekend for you, I hope it's going well. If you have comments or feedback, you can send an email to lgweeklynews@gmail.com, and you can head to lgnewsroundup.com for more details about the episode, including the story links, and keep an eye on the site for breaking news between episodes. Thanks to our terrific sponsors, our founding sponsor, the Victorian Local Government Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government. And we receive support from Symphony 3, simple connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. Our podcast is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening, and bye for now. Support for the Roundup comes from Symphony 3. Councils around the country are working hard to keep their communities safe and prepared before, during and after emergencies such as bushfires and floods. And in recent weeks, Symphony 3 has been working with councils around Victoria, including Greater Bendigo, Mildura, Ararat and Golden Plains, to create emergency dashboards, pulling together live data including weather, traffic, emergency incidents, unplanned and planned disruptions, news and social media feeds. An emergency dashboard is cost-effective and can be deployed in just 3 days. Find out more at www.symphony3.com.